Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. Okay, so what is this technique I keep talking about? Let me show you. I've done something very similar in the past, but I've never walked you through it. So you know how I talk about, oh gosh, my scissors are in the way. Talk about keeping this kind of scrap, because when you die cut whatever your die cut is, and you have this bit left behind, this is still a decorative edge, right? So now I have all of these white ones because I cut these to go on the backs of these that I'm going to make here, but I still have this from my other ATCs. So here are those, right? So this is where I cut out the ATC, or the sprinkle scallop rectangle die, so you can see that's the scrap from that. And then this is the scrap from that. So what we're going to do is take these little scallop bits and glue them on the inside so that it makes this cool, like, sawtooth design on the inside. Normally we see the fun edges on the outside, but this is different. We don't usually see that on the inside. So here is the red to orange one as well. Let me flip this over. So I did those two before I realized, hey, I've never shown you guys how I do that. So here's what I'm going to do. And I always, well, depending on what I'm putting the trim on, I will trim it down a little bit, because you want it to be fairly thin around, going around something circular or something with a bend. So I'm going to trim these down, and I might even need to trim. No, I think that'll work. So what I started to say was I might need to trim this part down, because I wasn't sure if it was going to fit in that small space, but it does. So let me get my glue, and you just want to take it slow, because this is cardstock, right? It's pretty heavy duty. So to get that to bend around these curves, you got to be a little patient sometimes. So I am just going to start right here. I'm going to go this way because that's the front, and I'm bending it just a little bit to break down those fibers a little so it will follow this curve. And I just start gluing it down, and I go a little by a little, and then I bend it, kind of like when you're putting your double-sided foam tape around a shaker window that has a shape to it. You'll put a little bit down, and then you'll bend it, and then you'll put a little bit more, and then you'll bend it some more. So kind of that same kind of idea. You want to make sure that whatever your pattern is coming through the window. So you can see there's a lot of glue in the way, but you can see that that black sawtooth design is coming through. So I don't want that glue there, but there you can see a little bit better. So it's not even. So if you want to go back and you just adjust it a little bit, because the glue isn't cured yet, it's still wet. So that gives you that wiggle room that we always talk about. And so it's this spot right here. Where's a pokey? It's this spot right here. Needed to move up a little bit more. So I hold it so it will secure, and then there you go. You can see that it's moved up a little bit more. And then if you have these excess bits that hang over the side, you can either work it around so that it adheres down, or you can just trim it off and start another piece. So it's really that simple. So we will do that. We will start us another piece. So I'll lay down some more glue. Now see how that bit is super, super thin? I'm going to start with this thicker end. I am going to trim that down a little bit because it is pretty thick for what I'm doing anyway. So I'm just going to trim that down so we have this thin, thin sliver here. And see, just the act of cutting it kind of bent those fibers a little. So the glue is still wet. So I'm going to lay that down right inside the window, and then bend it and continue to work it around that window. And I know that my fingers are likely in the way, and I apologize, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. So let me flip it over to make sure it's all in the window. It is. Over here can move in a little bit more, it looks like. So if you have to trim pieces off like this, you just want to do it little by little, because if you cut too much, then you can't get it in the window at all. So again, there's some glue that's in the way, so you can't really see it as well. But isn't that a neat effect? I really like it. I really like it. So let me finish this up. So we'll go around the rest of the way. And you may end up still having little scraps left. And of course, it's up to you if you decide you want to keep those for another project where you might want to use that decorative edge, or if it's too tedious and it's something that you will never do, you just go ahead and throw those scraps away. There we go. So again, I trimmed it down because this top part is very, very thin. A little too much glue there, obviously, but oh, there we go. Now you could easily make these into shakers. You know, you get your window cut out, you lay down your trim, and then you add the adhesive and the acetate, and then you build up that shaker well, either by adding layers or by adding double-sided foam tape like we were just talking about. So different ways that you can do that. But again, there it is. Isn't that cool? And they're still glue, so it's still going to look kind of whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But if you have excess on the back, again, you just trim that off. Make sure it's adhered down. And then I am going to adhere that to the back and then put the pirates in the middle like that. When I cut off an edge like that, I tip my scissors, so I do a bit of an undercut so that the top and the bottom, they kind of cut at an angle, but it cuts underneath your top panel, so you don't have to worry about potential edges hanging out. Now I know as you're looking at this, you can see that that sawtooth design kind of blends into the background. And on video, I doubt that you can see it very well at this point. But I could have just as easily done it with the white trim. I just didn't want that stark white, you know what I mean? But you can see how it would have looked. Or you could even layer it up. You could do 2 layers. You could definitely do that if you wanted to. But I am going to put these guys up on some double-sided foam tape because I just think that's fun. But these are the standard ATC size, which is 2.5 by 3.5. They will be a little bulky, this set, because I'm putting them up on the double-sided foam tape. But they should still fit in the little, I don't know what they're called. The little cellophane bags, envelopes, I guess. I put mine in those, and when I do a swap, I usually try to remember to send them in an envelope as well to protect them in the mail. So I'm not doing a bunch of bells and whistles. I'm not doing, you know, you saw I didn't do a bunch of splatter. I didn't do any splatter. And I'm always going to add my extra glue, because if I don't, that's when I'm in trouble. Oh, I didn't take off the, funny. The release paper. And then I just put him right in the middle. Now you can see when I fussy cut these out, I didn't worry about getting all up close in the details like I did when I cut out the masks, because I just wasn't going to mess with it. So I don't care that it has that white frame. I know it's kind of bold, and I could have done some ink blending around the edges so it wouldn't be as bold, but again, I'm not mad about that. So there he goes down as close to center as my crooked eye can get it. And then again, I do that undercut. And there's another one ready. Now I will go back and I will add these. I will stamp and put my information on the back, and then I will add that. And there it is. Fun, right? So with this one, this is how I kind of piece things together again. So this wasn't quite big enough. This piece by itself, it wasn't big enough. But I took another scrap right there and I glued it down. Now you will see that seam, right? You will see that seam, but your eye will go to this. Yes, it's visible, but again, that kind of thing doesn't bother me. I know that it bothers a lot of people, and especially if you're a perfectionist, that's going to be one of those things that will probably glare at you. No one else will likely see it or be bothered by it, but if it bothers you, then you have to do what's right for you, right? We always talk about you do you, and I hold true to that. And I don't say that with any sense of sarcasm or anything like that. I really think we have to be true to ourselves. So if that bothers you, then you won't want to do that technique. So there I have it glued down. Now I do my undercut. Get that off there. Get this little bit off there. And again, I will adhere the white background, but I want to stamp it first. And yes, you'll be able to see some of that black through the scallop and the sprinkles, but that, again, doesn't bother me. It takes a lot to get under my skin, y'all. So when I talk about something being under my skin, it took a lot to get there. So there he is with his bandana and his creepy eyes. And so there are a couple different ways to use up some scraps. So the first way is to use the leftover frame piece as another project itself. So that's what I did with all three of those frames that were left over after I die cut my ovals from the other set. So that was the base for three new cards, right? So when we talk about a 2 for situation, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's the first way to use the scrap. The second way to use the scrap is to keep these other pieces that can be decorative edges, especially if you have something that's jaggedy like that and we're coming up to Halloween. You know, that's going to be a really fun kind of an edge to have on some of those more spooky, irregular kind of things that we do during Halloween. And then the third way to use a scrap was to do this kind of piecing together. And you can be very purposeful about this, like you can piece different patterns together or different colors and make it more purposeful. Like this, you just see it. And again, that does not bother me. But if it's a technique that you want to do and maybe expand upon it and make a background that's similar, kind of like that, right? So it's the same idea where you're gluing them down to each other and then you make a background out of it. And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors or 4 different patterns. Here's this expanded on. So same idea. Same idea. So that is it, my friends. 3 different ways to use up those scraps. I did it on one project, and I will finish these up. I'll stamp out my backgrounds and adhere those down, and then they are done. All right, so that's the down and the dirty. I thank you guys for spending some more time with me. I hope everything makes sense. Please drop me questions downstairs in the comments section if you have any comments, if you've tried something like this, or just whatever you want to talk about. I'll meet you down there. So until next time, guys, mwah, I love you, and I'm out.